The whole time we were studying, we were being told that we were going to end up being computing millionaires, and wouldn't you know, the dot-com bubble just went and burst as soon as I graduated. In previous videos, I've talked about why it's a good idea to get a career in project management, but I've never really explained how I got involved in the profession myself. Well, now it's time for me to tell you how I got into project management and how I became a project manager. My name's Stuart Taylor, and I make videos about project management every week. And if that's a topic that interests you, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. Let's get to my story. I'm from Walsall in the West Midlands of the UK. It's a town whose local government described as deprived, with vast inequalities in wealth and health and opportunities. In fact, if you lived on the east side of the town, you were statistically likely to die about 8 years younger than those on the west side. I went to one of the worst schools in the area. So I actually went to a bad school in a bad area. And having picked up reasonably good grades with my GCSEs, I didn't really feel incredibly motivated to stay on and do sixth form and complete A-levels. That was a problem at the time though, because having A-levels, then university degree, was the fastest route to getting to a desirable qualification and open up opportunities. At least it was that way at the time. I'm not so sure these days. Instead, I got life experience and started working in the bar in local nightclubs and pubs and casinos. My direction at the time was focused towards getting a role like nightclub manager. To me, that seemed to be the perfect role. They seemed to have the perfect lifestyle. Parties, women, money. But the more I saw of the occupation, the more it turned me off. For example, unless a manager owns the club, they still get bossed around by an owner, or area managers if the club's part of a chain. Then you get into weird situations like the door staff having turf wars with rival firms, all played out violently on the steps of your nightclub. So by the age of 20, I'd decided that wasn't the future I wanted. As a teenager, I had a computer, which I used for some gaming and some schoolwork. I'd picked up some basic skills along the way, such as word processing and spreadsheets. But back in the early 1990s, schools were only just beginning to embrace the IT tools that would become the tools of the future. Because I was good at these skills, a friend of the family misinterpreted my competence for interest and happened to leave a copy of Computer Weekly magazine lying around at my house for me to read. I didn't understand a damn thing in it, not until I got to the job pages at the back and saw the salaries and day rates being offered in the profession. I remember seeing one role in Birmingham, which was just 10 miles away from Walsall and easily accessible to me. And it was for a role as programmer in C++ or Visual Basic, I think. And it was paying £40,000. £40,000! I thought, wow, I can get £40,000 to do computing? It's easy. But I knew I didn't have the specific skills to do the job, but that didn't put me off. So I called a recruitment agency, I think it was Computer Futures, and I asked a recruiter what skills or experience were needed to get the role. Things have changed a lot since then, and now teenagers are building apps in the bedrooms instead of doing schoolwork. But back then, the advice from the incredibly patient and tolerant recruiter was that I needed a university degree in computing. Now, do you remember earlier when I mentioned that I dropped out of the A-levels, which was the route to get to university to get the degree? I'd assumed because of this, that route was now close to me though, and that I'd never be able to get into a university. It turned out I was wrong. Whilst working in one of the bars a few nights later, I got chatting to a really friendly and helpful career advisor who ran a job club in Walsall, who explained that Wolverhampton Polytechnic had just become a university, and they were open to taking in mature students on full and part-time courses. So I checked that out and he was right, and I got enrolled, and at the age of 21 I started doing a computer science degree. Hey, if you like the story so far, hit the like button and let the YouTube algorithm know it's not a complete It was interesting mostly. There were elements of the course that I enjoyed and there were parts that I didn't enjoy so much. The degree ran for a period from the end of the late 1990s and past the turn of the millennium, during the dot-com boom. The whole time we were studying, we were being told that we were going to end up being computing millionaires, and wouldn't you know, the dot-com bubble just went and burst as soon as I graduated. So no millions yet, I'm afraid. After university, I used the skills I'd picked up to make websites and deliver IT training for local companies, and I even picked up a qualification in delivering learning in case I wanted to go down the route of becoming a lecturer. And no, it's not proven to be especially useful in delivering high-quality educational content on YouTube. The problem, though, was that I was good enough at programming and all that stuff, but it wasn't really what had grabbed me. It took a really long time before I figured out that what I really enjoyed about computing work was the problem-solving elements. I later picked up a completely unrelated role in collecting business-to-business data for a recruitment agency, but the role was short-lived as the company couldn't keep me on full-time. But by then I'd built up a really good relationship with the owners and explained to them that as they still needed data and I was happy to go and gather it, maybe we could do a different kind of arrangement where I'd set up a service company to provide them with the data that they needed. This enabled me to flex and bring in additional people or to reduce headcount in order to meet their needs. In doing so, I set up an office, bought in hardware, set up telecommunications, hired and trained staff, all that kind of stuff. By then I'd started to study Prince 2 as I'd started to notice how the alignment in how my preferences and approaches were consistent with project management. Eventually though, the company had received enough data, so I closed down the company and I went and picked up the Prince 2 Foundation qualification after spending a week doing intense study and surfing whilst camping alone in Woolacombe in Devon. And then one day I saw that Walsall Council were looking for project managers, so I applied and explained my recent work and talked about it from a perspective of doing the whole thing as a project. I talked about how I'd invested in myself to get the Prince 2 qualification, and I got recruited into my very first formal project management role. It wasn't the £40,000 salary that I'd been blown away by all those years ago, but it was £28,000, which in Walsall at the time was very good. And from there I picked up more experience, more knowledge, and, well, how my project management career progressed from project manager in Walsall to London-based assurance and PMO roles, from government to NHS to banking, that's all another story. Please let me know if you'd ever like to hear that next story. It's not exactly what I created the channel for, but sometimes seeing somebody else's lived experience can be really helpful. And of course, if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit the like button. And I'll see you next time.